For decades, Nancy Pelosi cultivated influence behind the scenes, until Elon Musk yanked the curtain open for the entire nation to see. It all began not with a whistleblower or a nameless insider from the deep state, but with Musk himself. At precisely 3 a.m. Eastern, without forewarning or explanation, he posted a cryptic message on his X account. Operation Doge is live. No links, no context, just 5 words. Then silence. The platform erupted. Reddit boards ignited. Telegram channels buzzed with theories. Everything from alien tech revelations to sweeping political arrests. But exactly 12 hours later, Musk returned not digitally but in person. He stood on stage inside what appeared to be a decommissioned mission control room, straight out of the Apollo era. But instead of rocket data, the monitors behind him displayed financial graphs, heat maps, documents, and faces. With his hands clasped behind his back, flanked by analysts and plainclothes operatives, Musk faced the room. His expression was unreadable. When he finally spoke, the air seemed to freeze. "I've been quiet long enough," he said. "This isn't political. This is about betrayal." The live stream lasted just 8 minutes, but that was more than enough to ignite a national firestorm. Musk disclosed the existence of clandestine government initiative codenamed Doge, formed to investigate what he described as a systemic laundering of public funds, disguised as foreign assistance and humanitarian missions. He didn't drop names at first, but his tone made it clear. This wasn't conjecture. It was an allegation. The location was very real, an old launch coordination facility near Cocoa Beach, Florida, just a short drive from Kennedy Space Center. After NASA downsized, the site had been privately purchased and sat idle, until Musk quietly converted it into the headquarters of a financial intelligence unit he had allegedly been assembling for years. Then came the evidence. One by one, documents filled the screen, emails, ledgers, signatures. Names began to appear. A senator from Oregon, a former Secretary of Transportation, several aides tied to nonprofits operating in Ethiopia and Myanmar. Then came the moment that sent shockwaves. Nancy Pelosi's face took over the central screen. Musk's tone never shifted. Representative Pelosi has been connected to over $327 million in foreign transfers between 2014 and 2021, he said, none of which appear in any public records. He explained that the funds were funneled through intermediaries, entities listed as NGOs, religious missions, and disaster aid groups. Many of them, he said, led back to offshore accounts in Luxembourg, the Seychelles, and Cyprus. Then he added, almost flatly, some of those accounts are registered under her niece's name. Viewers across the country were stunned. The same Pelosi who championed green energy bills, foreign aid transparency, and ethics reform was now being framed as the architect of an elaborate financial scheme buried under layers of public service. But Musk wasn't done. More files followed. Forensic audits, real estate deeds, properties in Utah and coastal Maine, purchased via shell companies, renovated, flipped, or leased to government vendors. According to Musk, these were part of a wider web of concealed holdings, one that implicated not only Pelosi, but numerous close allies. News anchors looked visibly shaken. Some stations pulled the broadcast midstream. Others leaned in, hosting round-the-clock panels trying to challenge the document's validity before anyone had a chance to verify them. But it was too late. Millions had already seen enough. Within an hour, hashtag Pelosi Offshore was trending. Calls for transparency erupted. Grassroots activists began filing FOIA requests en masse. Even critics of Musk found themselves unsure, because no one, not even veteran investigative journalists, had ever laid out something so granular, so bold, and so potentially explosive. A young woman in Albuquerque, watching the stream from her phone while at work, later told a friend, "It felt like someone kicked the door open, and instead of trying to gaslight us about what was behind it, he just let us see everything." That day, Musk said nothing else. He stepped off camera without a backward glance as federal agents moved in and took control of the space behind him. The live stream ended abruptly. No outro, no Q&A, just dead silence. But the documents that leaked later that night would change everything. The walls of the facility were a dull off-white, with cracks spreading from the corners, victims of Florida's relentless humidity. At a glance, it looked more like a forgotten relic than the operational core of a federal task force. Like time had simply paused there. But if you pushed past the corroded steel doors and walked beyond the faded countdown clocks, still hanging for nostalgia, a different picture emerged. Tables packed with monitors, power cords and data lines sprawled across the floor. The entire space had been retrofitted with modern technology, stitched together using a blend of private aerospace systems and federal surveillance infrastructure. The air smelled faintly of brewed coffee, sweat, and the acrid tang of overheating circuits. This was the nerve center of Operation Doge, and Elon Musk orchestrated like a silent maestro. To most on the team, he wasn't Elon. He was simply lead. Not out of ego, but out of clarity. When someone shouted lead in, it meant Musk had entered the room. When they called out lead clear, it meant he had left. He didn't give speeches. No inspirational monologues. He asked pointed questions and expected real answers. Dominating the main floor was a massive curved LED display, 60 feet wide. It showed dozens of live feeds, bank activity, red flag nonprofit transactions, encrypted file decryption logs, and facial recognition hits from surveillance networks. At the forefront stood Riley Sonnet, mid-40s, a former military intelligence operative. She had left government work following a scandal she never spoke of, and no one dared to ask about. Musk had brought her on board 3 years earlier, and now she led the forensic data team. Riley, Musk said, glancing toward her, walk me through the Pelosi branch again. She tapped the touchscreen panel, zooming in. The shell organization is called Bloombridge Relief Fund. She began. On paper, they run orphanage services in Malawi, funded by two Nyongos based in San Francisco. But watch the flow. With a swipe, the screen lit up. 3 transaction trails appeared, all pointing to a bland corporation registered in Luxembourg. Furnico Asset Holdings. Registered. Riley continued under the name Emery Ellison, Pelosi's niece's married name. Changed after 2017, probably to keep things quiet. Same birthday, same person. We confirmed it through voter rolls and 2 prior credit card statements. She flicked again. 2 receipts appeared, one from a restaurant in Monterey, another from a private jet booking in Stockholm. Musk narrowed his eyes. Jet company paid by Furnico? Riley nodded. Same week, that $4.3 million hit their Cyprus branch. Musk didn't smile. He only murmured, good. Then walked toward the operations table at the center of the room. That table stood out. Unlike everything else, it was new. Carbon fiber, matte black, military grade. Seated around it were 3 people. A former DOJ investigator, a cyber specialist who'd once hacked a Chinese telecom firm, and Sasha Brand, Musk's lead legal strategist. Sasha leaned forward, arms folded. This is going to hit hard. They won't just sit back and let this go. They'll come after you personally. The former DOJ rep added, they'll say you're undermining democracy, that you've lost your mind. Musk simply nodded. Let them, he said. He tapped the table twice. I'm not here for spin. I'm here for consequences. These people build entire careers behind a smokescreen of humanitarian aid. I want the smokescreen gone. He looked up. A drone hovered near the ceiling, quietly recording everything. Musk knew that one day, all of this might need to be shown to the public. Then Riley spoke up again. There's more. She rotated the display once more. Maxine Waters needs co-signed 2 of the grant applications linked to Pelosi's shell fund. There's a transfer connected to a Yemen relief project. It snakes through 6 intermediaries before landing on a property trustee in Beverly Hills. Sasha ran a hand through her hair. That's bold, even for DC. Musk's response was cold. That's desperation. The moment they stop fearing exposure, they start getting sloppy. The room went still again. Just a faint hum of servers and the intermittent beeps from the system. Riley, barely above a whisper, said, we're not tugging on a loose thread anymore. We're unraveling the entire quilt. Musk said nothing, but his fingers tapped the tabletop. 3 times this time. Then he stood. Line up the warrants, he said. I want a coordinated strike. Phoenix, San Francisco, DC Malibu, all at once. Sasha raised an eyebrow. You're not warning Congress? Musk turned to her, already walking away. I just did. And with that, he disappeared down a dim hallway, leading to a secure conference room. No guards followed. No aides accompanied him. Just a silhouette, swallowed by the glow of the emergency lights. But even Musk understood paper trails were enough. The next step had to be action. The next morning felt ordinary until it didn't. In Washington, D.C., office workers were just arriving when unmarked black SUVs began pulling up outside government buildings. No sirens, no chaos, just coordinated agents stepping out with quiet urgency. Federal marshals, DOJ liaisons, and a few men and women who wore no identification at all. Their movements were precise, like they'd rehearsed this many times before. In Phoenix, a gated home was quietly breached with a flash warrant. Neighbors peered through blinds as two agents rolled out cases of scanning equipment. One pointed toward a garage, where two high-end vehicles were registered to a green energy nonprofit that hadn't submitted a valid grant since 2021. And in Malibu, on the cliffs above the Pacific, a modest home surrounded by high-security gates had its locks disengaged by federal override. That property was purchased in 2019 by a shell company tied to a supposed climate initiative, allegedly based in Sudan. Inside each location, agents followed precise orders, looking for laptops, encrypted drives, financial records, burner phones, hidden compartments. They weren't searching. They were verifying. At the Capitol, in Washington, D.C., the tension finally broke. Two federal agents entered a lawmaker's office without knocking. Nancy Pelosi was already on edge. Her aides had briefed her about Musk's little stunt, but she hadn't yet seen the actual documents. She was mid-interview with a CNN anchor when one of her assistants leaned in and whispered something that made her freeze. The feed cut mid-sentence. Pelosi stood up, yanked off her mic, and stormed out of the room. Why the hell wasn't I informed? She snapped as she passed a group of stunned staffers huddled in the hallway. I want names. I want to know who authorized this. Now! The agents weren't aggressive, but they were resolute. One of them calmly displayed a sealed warrant, already approved by a federal judge. Not from D.C., Colorado. Too many local conflict of interest. The courts had chosen wisely. We're here to retrieve documents related to financial transfers involving congressional grant programs from 2015 to 2022, one of them said. The office fell into a stunned silence. Aides stood motionless, uncertain whether to act or stand down. One reached for the phone, only to be warned, any attempt to delete or alter digital records may result in obstruction charges. Pelosi's eyes narrowed. This is a mistake, a coordinated smear. He's manipulating you. But the agents didn't react. They were just doing their job. Across the city, media presence at the Capitol exploded. Reporters gathered on the steps, some visibly outraged, others gleeful. Is it true Nancy Pelosi is under federal investigation? One shouted. Are we going to see indictments today? Yelled another. No answers came. Back inside Musk's operations center, Riley monitored the corner screen, displaying a cascade of live feeds. One by one, green indicators turned yellow as agents confirmed seizures across the country. Phoenix had been wrapped. Malibu had revealed two vaults built directly into the house's foundation. In D.C., a laptop had been found encrypted so tightly that it was already en route to Quantico for decoding. Musk stood silently at the war room table, arms crossed. Sasha stepped beside him, eyes glued to her phone. They're already spinning it, she said. MSNBC just launched a panel calling this a tech bro power grab. Musk didn't flinch. Didn't I say this would happen? Sasha gave a dry smile. They're attacking your character. They're afraid, Musk replied. And they should be. Back on Capitol Hill, Pelosi paced her private office. Her phone vibrated, a number she hadn't seen in years. She let it ring. Then again, this time, a text. It was from a long-time lobbyist. They have the grants. The Yemen files, too. You need to kill this, now. Her hand clenched around the phone. This isn't just politics anymore, she muttered. This is war. But even in war, timing is everything. And at this moment, Musk held all the momentum. That didn't mean she was surrendering, and neither were her allies. Within 6 hours, the media narrative began to shift. What had started as cautious headlines, did Elon Musk just uncover congressional fraud, quickly transformed into something else. Tech billionaire targets Democratic icon. Elon Musk weaponizes federal power. Coverage wasn't unanimous, but the messaging was strategic. Every major outlet with political skin in the game began picking a side. CNN led with a segment highlighting Musk's old posts, accusing him of harboring a vendetta against politicians. MSNBC raised questions about whether his government partnership for Operation Doge had even been constitutional. Within hours, a coalition of House members issued a joint statement branding Musk as a threat to democratic integrity and institutional balance. He didn't reply, not on X, not to reporters, not even to personal messages from quiet supporters behind the scenes. Instead, just one message was posted to the official Operation Doge homepage. White text on black. Facts don't care who's nervous. Across America, the divide widened. In a small Arizona town near Tucson, a high school teacher named Denise Farrow paused her civics lesson to ask her students what they thought of the Musk situation. Half the class shrugged. One boy said his dad believed it's about damn time someone stepped up. A girl mentioned her mom had cried watching Pelosi grill live on TV. In Tampa, a retired firefighter rewatched the congressional hearing in complete silence when his son asked what he thought. The man didn't say a word. He simply pointed at the screen, where Musk held up a government grant form, 3 names blacked out. That, he said, is how they hide it. In a suburb outside Chicago, 2 brothers erupted into a shouting match over dinner. One claimed Musk was a hero. The other called him a narcissist with a god complex. Their mother said nothing, just quietly cleared the plates, exhausted. And that, exactly that, was what Musk had anticipated. Back in the command center, Sasha stood in the press response wing, watching multiple live streams of debate panels and commentary. "They're making you the story," she said under her breath. "Let them," Musk replied, eyes fixed on the endless stream of incoming data. "That's the only card they've got left." From across the room, Riley turned from her console. "We got fresh pings," she said. 3 more shell corporations just confirmed. And Maxine Waters' niece? She just updated her online bio. Removed every mention of Furnico Holdings. Musk offered a faint, almost amused smile. "Guilty people always start cleaning house in a panic," he said. But the real shockwave didn't hit until later that evening, when a leak surfaced on a popular podcast. Not a primetime network, not a polished news outlet, just Mitch and Lowe, a gritty, no-frills duo, one a veteran, the other an independent reporter known for exposing corporate rot. Somehow, they'd gotten hold of a private transcript, an audio recording from a meeting between Pelosi and her legal advisors, captured unintentionally via a Rode Bluetooth device. The audio was grainy, but the voice? Unmistakable. "They've got enough to bury me if this ends up in court. You don't have to spell it out. I know what's at stake." It exploded online within hours. Mainstream networks avoided it, but TikTok didn't. YouTube didn't. Independent media ran with it. Suddenly, no one was arguing about whether Musk was a threat. They were wondering why no one else had ever backed up claims like this with hard evidence. Pelosi responded the following morning, delivering a statement from the steps of her Georgetown home. Her voice was steady, but the fatigue behind her eyes betrayed her. "This is nothing more than a smear operation, one orchestrated by a billionaire who thinks his wealth exempts him from the law. I have nothing to hide." But the shift had already begun. In a cafe in Lincoln, Nebraska, a young woman leaned over her coffee and whispered to her boyfriend, "If she's got nothing to hide, why does she look so tense?" Back inside the war room, Musk replayed the clip with Sasha. "She's dodging," Sasha observed. "Classic tactic. Don't deny, just undermine your opponent's credibility." Musk said nothing. He simply set the hearing date. "Let's do it," he said. "I'm ready." While the rest of the country argued across dinner tables and comment threads, Musk prepared to confront her in person. The hearing chamber was unusually silent. not due to lack of attendance, but because the place was overflowing. Every surface had a camera mounted to it. Reporters stood shoulder to shoulder along the back wall, eyes locked in. Staffers murmured anxiously, their attention flicking between each other and their glowing phone screens. This wasn't a routine oversight meeting. This was something else. Elon Musk entered with no entourage, no lawyer, no PR handler, just him, dressed in a plain gray suit that felt almost underwhelming for a man of his wealth. He sat alone at the center witness table, adjusted the mic, and waited. Across from him sat members of the Congressional Oversight Committee. Some looked openly hostile, others visibly uncomfortable. Nancy Pelosi was the last to arrive, flanked by 2 aides. She took her seat on the panel, posture rigid, face a polished mass of calm frost. A ripple of murmur swept through the room as Chairman Felix Rayon, a representative from New Mexico, leaned in and cleared his throat. This committee is assembled today to evaluate the scale, legality, and ethical consequences of Operation Doge, and to ensure the American public hears the evidence firsthand. He nodded toward Musk. "You may begin." Musk leaned forward, fingers laced. The goal of Operation Doge was straightforward: follow the money. Wherever taxpayer dollars were distributed under the banner of humanitarian aid, we tracked every link in the chain, from the State Department to private contractors, from there to charitable organizations. Organizations that, in truth, were anything but. He paused, letting the room breathe. "Let me be absolutely clear. This isn't about party lines. This is about trust. The trust Americans place in institutions their taxes sustain." He tapped a button on the tablet in front of him. The lights dimmed slightly as the large screen behind him illuminated. Slide 1. A wire transfer from a U.S. Foreign Assistance Office to a nonprofit in Armenia. Slide 2. A matching withdrawal just 2 days later, this time to a real estate firm based in the Netherlands. Slide 3. Ownership records connecting that firm to a management entity in Bice, linked directly to a relative of Pelosi. Musk looked up from the table. "Anyone here care to challenge the ownership chain? I have notarized documents tracing every connection." Silence. Chairman Rayon leaned in again. "So what you're saying is these funds were redirected into private real estate holdings?" Musk nodded. "Yes, and not just one. 32 properties across 6 nations. Some were rental units. Others flipped for profit. But all of them, every single one, were bought with money originally tagged for humanitarian aid." Pelosi finally spoke. "With all due respect, Mr. Musk, you're not a federal agent. You're not accountable to anyone. You're a tech mogul with a Messiah complex, hijacking a federal partnership to settle a personal score." Musk turned his head slowly toward her. "If this were personal, Congresswoman, maybe you can explain why your niece is listed as financial advisor on 3 of the shell corporations that laundered those funds." She opened her mouth, but said nothing. Musk clicked once more. The next slide appeared. A 2020 email thread, subject line, "Urgent transfer before audit. Recipients, 2 senior directors at an NGO and an assistant from Pelosi's office." The assistant's response, highlighted in bold on the screen, read, "Confirm. Delay the filing. If it falls under development assistance, it won't raise flags." The screen froze on that final sentence. You could feel the energy shift. Something had cracked open in the room. Then came the question that broke the silence wide open. Musk turned his gaze directly to Pelosi and asked, "How does a public official with an annual salary under $200,000 end up with indirect ownership of over $100 million in international real estate assets?" There was no reply. Cameras zoomed in. Journalists' pens scratched furiously. But the quiet, the sheer stillness, was more deafening than anything said that entire morning. Chairman Rayon cleared his throat, visibly uneasy. "Congresswoman, would you care to respond?" Pelosi shifted in her chair. When she finally spoke, her voice was softer, measured. "There are many reasons someone may build wealth. Investments, family holdings, book deals. I've been in public service a very long time." Musk didn't blink. "I don't object to people building wealth," he said. "What I object to is when theft is disguised as public service. A collective breath passed through the room. No one said a word. In the back, Sasha stood watching, alert, silent. She could feel it, same as everyone else. This wasn't just about Pelosi anymore. This was systemic. People were beginning to ask themselves, how far does this go? Musk closed his file. I'm not here for applause. I'm not here for revenge. I'm here for one thing, accountability. For the working parent juggling 2 jobs. For the veteran still waiting months for a medical appointment. For every taxpayer who put their trust in you. He stood. The room didn't move. But even with everything out in the open, what happened next surprised everyone. 3 days later, Nancy Pelosi stood behind a podium outside her San Francisco residence. Her voice was gentle. Her words, carefully measured. I've always believed in the purpose of public service. I've always believed in the strength of good governance. But there comes a time when new voices need to lead. She didn't mention the investigation. She didn't say the words, Operation Doge. She didn't have to. The statement dropped just hours after the Office of the Inspector General quietly confirmed the existence of a sealed federal investigation. No charges have been filed. Not yet. But the pressure? Unmistakable. Capitol Hill buzzed with hushed rumors. Internal audits. Frozen assets. Strategic resignations. Inside Congress, a chill passed through the halls. Staffers moved quicker. Senators requested sudden legal briefings. One representative from Maryland discreetly erased his online financial disclosures. A senator from Nevada canceled a family trip and quietly brought on a forensic accountant. No one said it, but they all felt it. The rules had changed. In the weeks that followed the hearing, 3 nonprofit CEOs tied. The flagged NGOs resigned. One completely vanished. A 4th, based in Oregon, surrendered control of his entire foundation to an obscure philanthropic group based in Qatar. And yet, Musk remained silent. He returned to Doge HQ in Florida and resumed operations as if nothing had happened. Now and then, he posted terse updates to the command center portal. Data integrity confirmed in Arizona. 83% of FOIA requests processed. Fraud accountability isn't a phase. No press tours. No interviews, just the work. But the country didn't forget. In a roadside diner outside Bismarck, North Dakota, an older couple sipped coffee as they watched a clip from the hearing. The woman turned to her husband and murmured, I never thought I'd live to see someone finally hold him accountable. In Fresno, California, a group of college students replayed one moment on loop. Musk's question, how does a public servant become a millionaire off taxpayer money? They mouthed it like a chant, over and over, at a veterans hall in Tulsa. During an open mic night, a retired Marine stepped up front and spoke into the mic. This isn't red or blue anymore. This is about somebody finally tearing the curtain down. Inside Pelosi's camp, the response was frantic. Lawyers were flown in. PR firms were brought on round the clock. But it wasn't enough. Not against leaked documents. Not against a recorded confession. Not against a nationally televised hearing. The story couldn't be walked back. Her supporters insisted the evidence was incomplete. Her opponents argued it was merely the beginning. And then, something unexpected happened. Musk received a letter. Not from a reporter, not from a fan, but from a retired congressional ethics official, now in his 70s, living quietly in a remote cabin in northern Idaho. The letter was brief, hand-signed, and carried a simple message. I once tried to raise the same alarms. They drowned me in bureaucracy and silence. Thank you for not letting them do the same to you. Musk never replied. But the letter was framed and hung in a quiet corner of the Doge Command Center, just above the panel tracking the national power grid. One evening, Sasha sat beside Riley, eyes on the data feed. She broke the silence with a question neither of them had dared ask out loud. Do you think any of this actually changes things? Riley didn't respond right away. She watched as Musk walked past them, deep in thought, lost in the tide of it all. Then she said, almost to herself, it already has. Across the country, something was shifting. Requests under the Freedom of Information Act surged. New grassroots watchdog groups began emerging online. Volunteers, ordinary people, started combing through state budgets and local contracts, line by line. Every so often, someone would share a Musk quote spotted in the wild, spray painted on subway walls, stamped onto bumper stickers, stenciled onto sidewalks. Truth isn't loud. It's steady. Musk never declared victory. He didn't need to, but then came one final message. No fanfare, no announcement, no press advisory. It appeared quietly one morning on the official Doge portal. Title: Only a word to the public. The footage wasn't polished. No dramatic lighting, no score. Just Musk, alone in the mission control room where it had all begun. The LED wall behind him was dark. The room dim and unstaged. You could hear the low hum of a cooling fan in the background. He looked directly into the lens. "I want to explain something," he began. "Not to lawmakers, not to journalists, to you." He paused, not for effect, just to breathe, then leaned forward, steady. "I didn't do this to ruin anyone. I did it because I noticed something. Patterns, anomalies, things others missed. And when I looked closer, I saw that the people entrusted with our money, our programs, our future, they were playing by a different rule book." He shook his head lightly. Public service isn't supposed to be a retirement package. It's not meant to be a shortcut to wealth. But too many people in power made it exactly that, and they counted on no one paying close enough attention to stop them. He lifted a small folder, tapped it twice on the desk. This is just one fraction of what we uncovered. And it's not just Pelosi. It's not just one political party. It runs broader, deeper, and yes, some of it is still under verification. But that's not the point. The point is the silence that let all happen. He leaned back. They didn't just take advantage of systems. They exploited your distraction, your trust, your fatigue. They banked on you being too overwhelmed to notice, too disillusioned to care. For a few moments, Musk didn't speak. His hands were still, his eyes locked on the camera. Then he continued, "Maybe it's time to stop treating corruption like background noise, like some inevitable cost of governance. Maybe it's time to stop shrugging off hypocrisy and start asking real questions. Because when those in power believe no one's watching, that's when they're most dangerous." He stood up slowly, walked toward a wall panel. The camera stayed fixed on him. He pressed a button. A massive screen flickered to life, displaying a collage. Everyday Americans, in kitchens, on buses, at work, watching the congressional hearing from earlier that month. Musk turned to the screen. "You don't have to agree with me. You don't even have to like me. But you should demand more from the people who spend your money in your name. That's not politics. That's basic respect." He turned back to the camera one last time. "I'm going back to my work. You should keep watching theirs." Then the video cut out. No outro, no donation links, no logo, just silence. But what followed didn't need a marketing plan. Within hours, forums lit up. Comment sections exploded. Users started sharing flagged contracts, screenshots of local budgets and nonprofit grants that didn't add up. A hashtag began trending across platforms. Hashtag not above us. And in break rooms, kitchens, classrooms, bus stops, people were no longer yelling. They were talking, really talking. In Salem, Oregon, a bus driver paused his lunch break, watching the full video alone on his phone. When it ended, he just sat there, whispering to himself, "He's right. I stopped paying attention." In Ohio, a single mom took a moment during her night shift as a janitor to write down a question she planned to email her state rep the next morning. And in a small town outside Wichita, a retired Army vet began printing Musk's closing quote and taping it to light poles. When silence enriches a few, truth becomes a responsibility. Maybe it wouldn't last. Maybe the system would double down. But something had cracked open. And this time, people didn't look away. They'd seen the rot. They'd felt the betrayal. But most importantly, they'd watched someone stand up, not for power, but for accountability. That didn't make Elon Musk a savior. It made him a signal, a reminder. Subscribe to the channel for more incredible stories. Share your thoughts in the comments and send this video to someone you love.